Hello and welcome back to Daddy Dimes Radio, episode 11. Starting off with the NBA Locker Code of the Week.
All right, so this one is going to be my team, and as usual, all caps, my team dash flash dash the number 5 dash galaxy dash opal dash MJ. You got a couple different pack options you can get, including a chance for the Galaxy Opal MJ. Again, my team flash 5, the number 5, Galaxy Opal MJ.
And moving on to the NBA Weekly Recap, the Bulls beat the Thunder by 1 after Ayo Dosum, I don't know if I pronounced that right, half-court buzzer beater at the end of the third.
Yeah, it's Ayo Dosumnu, the guy from Illinois, the point guard for the Bulls. And then the Cavs knocked off the Knicks by 2 on Kevin Love's double-double and some clutch shooting at the end from Darius Garland.
The Clippers come back from a 35-point comeback. I messed up. The Clippers mount a 35-point comeback to beat the Wizards by 1, and Luke Kennard had 7 points in the final 9 seconds of the game.
Anthony Edwards dropped 40 in the T-Wolves' 2-point win over the Blazers in a game that ended on a game-winning goaltending call for the Wolves.
The Hornets beat the Lakers by 3, despite a bounce-back 35-point performance by Russell Westbrook.
The Pacers beat the Thunder by 3 in OT after some ugly sequences of basketball from both sides, obviously both weaker teams, and it was not very pretty, especially for the NBA.
The 76ers knock off Kings by 2 on another strong performance from Joel Embiid.
The Raptors upset the Heat in triple overtime, and a good victory by 4 points. That was a really exciting game to watch. The Raptors starting to kind of strive back to kind of how they started really hot at the beginning of the season. They're starting to do better again as a playoff contender.
The Warriors beat the Nets by 4 in a very close fourth quarter finish. Some bad decisions by the refs and Steve Nash were made that might have cost the Nets the game after Klay and Kyrie's clutch threes. Kyrie hitting a season high of I believe 32 points in that loss. Very close game with Klay's clutch 3 at the end of the game to seal it.
Yeah. And then we're going to go ahead and move on to the NBA All-Star Game. As they announce the starters and the reserves are going to be announced very soon, we're going to go ahead and give you our picks for the reserves.
So for the East, the starters are Trae Young, DeMar DeRozan, Kevin Durant, who was the captain, Giannis, and then Embiid. And for my reserves, at the guards, I have LaMelo Ball and James Harden. In the front court, I have Jimmy Butler, Allen, and Middleton. And then for my wild cards, I have Garland and Tatum.
Yeah, for mine, in the guards, I have Harden as well. And then I had Garland pushed up there of LaMelo because I think him and Jared Allen are really carrying the Cavs right now. Then for the front court, I had Jason Tatum, Pascal Siakam, who I don't think you had in there. I put in Siakam over Butler because Siakam's been a huge part of that Raptors team along with Fred VanVleet. Then I have Jared Allen. Then for my wild cards, I put in LaMelo and then Chris Middleton.
And then for the West, the starters are Stephen Curry, John Morant, Wiggins, LeBron, who's the captain again, and Jokic. For my reserves at guards, I have Chris Paul and Luka Doncic. In the front court, I have Paul George, Cat, and Gobert. For my wild cards, I have Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell.
For my Western Conference reserves, the guards, I have Devin Booker and Luka Doncic. Luka having a bit of a down year for himself, similarly to Harden, but they both get in there as they're still having very strong seasons. And then Devin Booker getting into All-Star game yet again. Then for the front court, I have Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, who either of them probably could have made it instead of Andrew Wiggins for the front court for the starters. But I'm glad to see Wiggins succeed, even if he maybe should have been a reserve. Then my final front court, even though he's more of a guard, he does start small forward, and I was kind of having some troubles figuring out who I wanted to put in certain spots. So I have Anthony Edwards with that final front court reserve spot, having a really good sophomore year. And then my wild cards are Donovan Mitchell having another strong year, and then DeJounte Murray having a little bit of a breakout year, leading the Spurs.
Moving on to college basketball, our top 10 draft predictions for right now. Let's hear yours, Ethan.
At number 1, I had the star Duke freshman Paolo Banchero.
For my number 1, I have Ivy.
Yeah, of course, Ivy kind of making that jump recently, but I still think Banchero is the best player in college basketball right now. At number 2, I had Gonzaga's star freshman Chet Holmgren.
At my number 2, I have Banchero.
At number 3, I had your number 1, Jaden Ivey out of Purdue. Purdue, they were playing Ohio State earlier in a Big Ten battle. So I'll go ahead and, as we go through this, I'll go ahead and check on what the final score of that game was for you guys and see how Ivy performed as we're doing this.
My number 3 was Holmgren.
Yep, Holmgren, not Gonzaga. My number 4 is Jabari Smith out of Arizona.
Yeah, my number 4 is also Smith.
All right, and then an update on the Purdue-Ohio State game. Purdue escaped with a 3-point victory, 81-78, and Ivy had 21 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Just knew they were playing, so I want to give you guys an update as we were talking about it. Then my number 5 was the breakout sophomore from Wisconsin, Johnny Davis.
My number 5 is Duran.
All right. That was my number 6, the tall center out of Memphis, Jalen Duran.
My number 6 is Davis.
Yep. Number 7, I have the star senior. I think he might be the only senior on this list from KU, Ochai Agbaji. Maybe the leading candidate, close between him and Banchero, for College Basketball Player of the Year right now.
I also have Ochai at my number 7. And at my number 8, I have Ty Washington.
Yeah, I also have Ty Washington out of Kentucky, the freshman, at my number 8.
For my number 9, I have Dyson Daniels.
Yeah, I also had Dyson Daniels. The only non-college basketball player in here decided to go straight to the pros, like it's becoming more common these days. Yeah, I have Dyson Daniels. The number 10, I have AJ Griffin, the small forward out of Duke, another freshman.
Yeah, I also have AJ Griffin at my number 10. And then moving on to our weekly recap for college basketball. Alabama upsets Baylor 87-78.
Yeah, so Baylor, of course, has been one of the best teams in the country. They were undefeated for so long, but now they've picked up their third loss in 2 weeks, their third loss of the season, in the SEC versus Big 12 week between two of the best conferences in college basketball. And in one of those, the biggest game was Kentucky versus KU, and Kentucky absolutely destroyed them in a surprising win. I thought KU would win that one, but Kentucky did a man press and got a lot of turnovers, and they came out ready to play. And KU, their first half's been pretty bad all season, and Kentucky just came out with more effort and enthusiasm than them.
Yeah, the two blue bloods fighting there. KU, a really hard team to beat at away, even harder to beat at home. Some people say that they're almost impossible to beat at home, but Kentucky beats them there. I was really surprised about that. But moving on to Texas knocks off the 18th ranked Tennessee by 1 in a very defensive battle.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of these guys are from the SEC versus Big 12 week, and we had a lot of good games that were fun to watch. And one of those was TCU continuing their kind of hot run here in the Big 12 as a surprising team. They knocked off the 19th ranked LSU.
Stanford beats USC by 3 3 in an upset after Isaiah Mobley misses the final shot.
Yeah, of course, the leading Rookie of the Year candidate for the NBA this year is Evan Mobley, who his brother played with him last year at USC. Isaiah couldn't hit this final shot, though. He's trying to make it to the league with his brother coming soon. But Providence beat Xavier by 3 in an important Big East battle between two of maybe the only, I don't know if Villanova's ranked this year or not, but two of the best teams in the Big East.
Iowa State beats Oklahoma State by 3 in an overtime win.
Yeah, big Big 12 victory there for Iowa State, who had been starting to slide. And then another big battle was in the Pac-12 between two top 10 teams. UCLA dominated Arizona in a battle between the third-ranked Arizona and the seventh-ranked UCLA.
Illinois beats Michigan State on a comeback victory in a Big Ten battle. Michigan State, one of my favorite teams in college basketball, have been really good so far. I don't know what they're ranked.
I think they were ranked around the number 10 range this week, but this loss could bump them down to 13 or 14. And then it may be the most exciting game of the week. KU beat Texas Tech in another Big 12 battle by 3 in double, or I think it was actually triple overtime. I think I might have typed that in wrong. I think it was triple overtime. And it was crazy. Of course, Big 12, I think, is the best conference in college basketball, like I said last week. And that was a huge battle. And KU gets away with another close victory.
Moving on to the NFL. Breaking news, you've probably already heard about it. Tom Brady has retired.
Yeah, of course. Probably the GOAT of all time in the NFL. I think, I'm not sure why it sparked his decision after all these years, but he did say he was likely to retire around the age of 45, which he is right now. Of course, love him or hate him, we are all going to miss his spectacular play in the NFL. This is probably definitely going to hurt the Buccaneers' future, even though there are rumors about Aaron Rodgers going there. I'm not sure it will happen. And even though Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks of all time as well, anybody is a downgrade from Tom Brady.
Yeah, after 22 seasons, I believe he has 7 Super Bowls. And I haven't heard any news about Gronk retiring with him, but I bet he will.
Yeah, I would definitely see that coming. Gronk has already retired once, came out of retirement to play with Tom at Tampa Bay. And he's already, you can just see he's slower and older out there on the field, even though he was still one of Tom's favorite targets. I could definitely see him retiring as well, which would be another big loss for Tampa Bay. And, you said the 7 Super Bowl victories. That's just the victories. I'm not sure exactly how many more he made, but he made quite a few Super Bowls. Definitely the greatest quarterback of all time in the playoffs.
Yeah, I believe his goal was 9 Super Bowls, but 7, still such an impressive feat. I don't know, like you said, don't know how many we've been to, but I think it was in the 12s.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on from Tom Brady to who do you think is going to be in this? Who do you think is going to win these games? The Chiefs and the Bengals, and the Rams and the 49ers.
Well, Chiefs versus Bengals. A lot of people are actually picking the upset with the Bengals. It's about to go down in about 20 minutes here where we live. And the Chiefs, I personally think the Chiefs are going to win, even though the Bengals won in Week 17. I think it's all going to come down to if the Chiefs defense can stop Jamar Chase. The connection between Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase has been great since college. And the Chiefs did not have a single answer for him back in Week 17. But, of course, the Bills' defense did not have an answer for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs' offense, and the Bills' defense was number 1 in the NFL. And I think it'll definitely be similar to the Bills in a shootout, and hopefully a fun, close game to watch. Maybe even goes into OT like last week's game of the decade, possibly the Chiefs versus the Bills.
Yeah, I think did you find any information if Tyrann Mathieu is going to be back after that head injury?
I'll go ahead and look it up real quick. But, yeah, that could definitely be a big factor, not just for his playability and his ability to possibly slow down, and he will play. He is going to play. That definitely helps the Chiefs' odds. And, of course, not just his ability to help stop Jamar Chase and their other stud wide receivers, T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, but to give his team his defensive squad that's been struggling, some morale and help their spirits to possibly win this game. And, of course, you could send him in on some blitzes with that weak Cincinnati O-line. I definitely think you could do that. You got any more thoughts on the game?
I think the Chiefs will win it as long as they can shut down Chase. But I think home field will take a part in the win with the Chiefs with the home field advantage. But I think the Chiefs will win it as long as their defense holds.
Yeah, of course, last time they lost at Cincinnati, which was very loud, and now they have the home field advantage at Arrowhead Stadium, one of the loudest stadiums in the NFL. Then Rams versus 49ers. This is such a tough one with the Rams coming off a victory in the last game of Tom Brady's career, but the 49ers coming off victory over the Packers. And both of them have their struggles, even though they came up with the victory. The Rams choked for pretty much the entire second half and let the Bucs come back until Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp connected for a few passes to get that game-winning field goal, the third one of the week. And then the 49ers did not score a single touchdown on offense. They kicked a couple field goals and had a touchdown on special teams. So all their points came from special teams. And they could definitely do that again today if their defense holds strong. And I think the Packers probably overall have a more dynamic offense than the Rams, but the Rams can strike as well. And I don't know if the 49ers will have an answer for Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the 49ers winning this one here. If their offense can pull through, their defense is what's winning their games. Their offense has definitely not been the best. Their defense pulling them along. The special teams won that game. The offense did not do anything against the Packers. But I think Deebo Samuel is going to have a big game. And as long as the offense pulls through and the 49ers defense holds like it has, then I think the 49ers will win this.
Yeah, a lot's going to come down to Jimmy Garoppolo, but I'm going to have to pick the 49ers as well. They're just such a hard team to beat right now with the way they play, physical and dynamic guys like Deebo Samuel. George Kittle as a consistent football catcher, and then guys like Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, who is going to play on the defensive end. But you do have to worry about the Rams' wide receiver weapons with Odell and Cooper Kupp. And then the weakest part of the entire team of the 49ers being their defensive backs. So this one, it's going to be a coin toss. But I'm going to go with the 49ers to pull out. I think Jimmy G is going to clutch up and play much better than last week. They beat the Rams twice this year. I think they can get the third one done.
Yeah, I agree. So, moving on, we are going to be showing you guys a little tier list of a game that me and my brother like to play, and a lot of kids at school. That's been kind of popular. Clash Royale. We're going to be doing a win conditions tier list to wrap up our episode. We've been saving this one for an episode that may be running a little short on time. So, starting it off, we have the Three Musketeers.
Yeah, this one, 9 Elixir, the most expensive card in the game. I'm going to have to slide this one into D tier, especially because it's so hard to get out, and then it can be countered fairly easily. Even though it can rack that damage, it takes some time for it to rack up that damage. I have to go D tier.
Yeah, I agree. 9 Elixir is way too much for one card that can, like you said, be easily countered with a simple like fireball or lightning, and then just a few troops. So I agree with D. Moving on to Balloon.
Balloon has to go S tier. One of the most broken cards in the game. because it can be paired with so many good spells like freeze and rage, and then the rage that comes off of the lumberjack when it dies, of course. So I think Balloon is definitely an S tier.
Yeah, for the next card, we have Goblin Barrel, which I would put in A.
Yeah, I think it's either A or B because it has so much potential, but it's so easy to counter.
Yeah, because arrows take it out.
Yeah, and arrows, one of the weaker spells in the game. But log, of course, takes it out very easily, and you can use it very well in a log bait deck, but not everybody's good at playing log bait. It's not the most consistent card. I have to go with B tier.
Yeah, I agree.
And then we have the Elite Barbarians.
This is a card that I really like. As long it does such good tower damage, and it does good against troops with the two of them. So I say I'm kind of A or S.
For me, it's more A or B because, of course, they have that potential, but they're kind of easy to counter because they don't go straight for the tower. They get distracted very easily. And 6 elixir can be a large commitment. We'll go A since you're thinking A or S. But they can be used very well, and they're a very annoying card. It's a tough one. And then we go to Electro Giant, who I think is definitely S tier.
Yeah, 8 elixir, but he's just so good. He's not like your average giant. He has a shocking ability where if the troops that go in a circle to try to attack him, he will slowly shock them to death, taking away their XP, which is a lot better than the regular giant, which just attacks and can be easily taken out by like Skeleton Army, for example. But Skeleton Armies are like a terrible card to play against E-Giant because of his shocking abilities.
Then we got Elixir Golem. Of course, I think possibly the cheapest. No, not the cheapest. Tied for the cheapest, but he is a golem. I'm thinking around B tier because, of course, he's not the best, most consistent, but you get
elixir off him. He gives you elixir.
He gives your opponent elixir, which of course is not good. But 3 elixir is a small commitment, and you can get a lot of damage with it for 3 elixir. And giving your opponent that elixir back is perfectly fine because you have plenty of time to get elixir back to counter whatever he tries to do.
I did not know that he gave your opponent elixir.
Well, what do you think he did?
He gave you elixir.
No, then he would be like 9 elixir to play.
Moving on to Furnace, which I say is detail.
Yeah, I agree. It can be used defensively too as a distraction building, but as a win condition, we did not make this tier list. I don't think it should be here as a win condition. And if it should, I think it's the weakest win condition in the game because it sends out those fire squirts, which do a lot of damage, but they can all be easily countered. And it just doesn't have much effect because at max, you maybe get 6 fire squirts at max, and sure, that can be 600 damage, but the odds of every single fire spirit connecting when it only sends out 1 very slowly at a time, not the best.
Moving on to Giant, which I would say is C tier.
Yeah, I agree.
It's so easily counted with a simple Skeleton Army. It absolutely destroys it.
Or guards, or Goblin Gang, any sort of swarm. Even
because it doesn't attack troops.
It is a great defensive card as well to distract with its tanky health. But even when it gets on tower, it only does depends on your level, but it only does about 100 to 200 depending on your level per hit, which you can have with a lot of regular cards,
Yeah. Moving on to, is this called Goblin Giant?
Yeah.
Moving on to Goblin Giant, which I say is A tier. It's just like your regular giant, but in its pouch and its back has 2 spear goblins that can take out enemies while it's walking, and once it dies, the spear goblins spawn on the ground and can rack up a little extra damage. So I say it's A tier.
Yeah, definitely one of the most underrated cards with that spear goblin ability because you can get a lot done with the goblin giant on tower, and then spear goblins do about 100 per hit. And if your opponent's not ready for them, that can be a lot of extra damage that could take out a tower potentially.
Moving on to, is that Goblin Drill?
Yes, it is.
I'd say A. And I think it's better than Goblin Barrel.
I have to say B because I think it's a little bit harder to use with that 4 elixir commitment, and your opponent, even though they can log and then more goblins can come out to do tower damage, they can kind of send out just a distraction troop, and it just sends 1 goblin or 2 goblins out at a time, that a mini P.E.K.K.A. could take out.
Moving on to, I also forgot.
Golem.
It's just a card Golem. And this is a card that once in the big Golem dies, it splits into 2 smaller Golems that can rack up extra damage. So I say, I don't know, because it's 8 elixir.
And it's very slow, so they can have a lot of time to counter it, and it doesn't do damage on its way like the Electro Giant, which is the same elixir cost.
I'm kind of debating between really high B or low A.
I think low A since we have Goblin Giant there and E-Barbs. Elixir Golem is kind of, I think, on a similar level to E-Barbs.
So high B is
the
Golem?
I think E-Barbs could be moved down to high B, but we'll keep them there for now.
Is that Tombstone or Graveyard?
That's Graveyard.
So Graveyard, you can play it on Tower, and it spawns up sins.
I think it used to be a lot better, but now, you still have your Graveyard Poison deck, but you just have to play it correctly, and it can be easily stopped for 5 elixir.
I say B.
Yeah, I agree. Since we have kind of similar cards with Goblin Barrel and Goblin Drill.
Yeah, next up, Hog Rider with its iconic Hog Rider screen.
I'm going to have to say A.
Yeah, because I think it's better than all the B cards.
For just 4 elixir, it can be taken out easily, and obviously a building can do a great job on it. But if you are able to strategically get it down, especially in Hog 2.6 cycle, that's a big reward, and it's one of the cheapest cards out here. Electro Giant Golem are literally twice its elixir cost. Yeah. And then we have Lava Hound, which I think is S tier.
Yeah.
One of the lowest damage dealing tanks on here, but it has so much health. And then when you die, you get whatever you want to call the little lava things that don't do too much, but can just keep that pressure on while you try and get some elixir back for this 7 elixir commitment.
Then moving on to Miner, which I think is A tier.
A tier? I think it's D tier.
D tier?
Yeah, I think it goes, most of these aren't ordered, but I think 3 Musketeers and Furnace are definitely far at the back, and then Miner above that.
If it's either B or C if it's that low.
No, I think Miner is the worst win condition in the game because I don't think
besides
these count
Furnace?
as win conditions. No, Furnace is not a real win condition. It's just on this tier list.
It's worse than Musketeers, not 3 Musketeers.
That's not really a win condition either, in my opinion.
Next up, Mortar, which I say is D tier.
I have to agree. I think it's probably been Miner, though you can combo Mortar and Miner together to make a strong control deck and go full defensive. You can also go Miner Rocket, but I kind of like the idea of Miner Mortar. But like Miner by itself, it's not that good.
Moving on to P.E.K.K.A. Not many P.E.K.K.A people. P.E.K.K.A. And I say this is
B or A. We'll say, I think E-Barbs, it's much better than E-Barbs, but you put E-Barbs in A.
It's easy distracted, but it does 500. It does 700 damage.
It is definitely in the meta right now. There's a lot of P.E.K.K.A decks in the meta right now.
Then Battle Ram.
I have to say C.
Yeah. Because if you can get it to hit tower, it's really good.
But really, I think it's kind of a weaker version of Hog Rider, same
Yeah.
elixir cost.
The barbarians can rack up some damage
Yeah.
if it gets to tower, but if you can take it out before it gets to tower, it
Then
doesn't
the
really do
barbarians
much.
can easily be taken out as well.
Yeah. And then moving on to Raider,
Which I think is S tier,
Yeah,
one of the
because
most underrated.
it rides and does tower damage instead of the Hog Rider, and it's able to hit troops while still hitting tower.
Mm-hmm.
Because the rider throws like a slingshot kind of thing at the troops.
And especially similar to the Dark Prince in Battle Ram, you get, I think, around 400, 500 damage if you can get it with the charge and then hit. And then it does 100 to 200 depending on level per hit.
Yeah, next up is Royal Giant, which
I think it's a high C.
it's
definitely better than Giant and
yeah.
Battle Ram, but it's not the best.
Next, Royal Hogs, which I think is
A.
Yeah. They're really good if you can, with Rage, they're like super good, which can take out somebody's tower like that.
But Fireball is an easy counter for 4 elixir when if you go Royal Hog's Rage or Royal Hog's Clone or something, that's a 7 or 8 elixir commitment.
Yeah. I don't know what's this called.
Then we have Skeleton Barrel, which I say B. Since we have Goblin Barrel there, I think Skeleton Barrel is better than Goblin Barrel. But Goblin Barrel is a spell that you just throw and get on tower immediately. With Skeleton Barrel, you can get it down by popping balloons.
Yeah. Skeleton Barrel, if you can get it to tower, what's really good is if the Skeleton Barrel can get to tower, then you freeze their troops.
Mm-hmm.
The skeletons do like as much damage as goblins, but it spawns more of them, which can take out tower, even if it's at 1,000 health, super fast.
And then we have Wall Breakers, which I also think are B, because they're just 2 elixir, the cheapest card on here. They can do big damage, but they're incredibly easy to counter.
Yeah, I agree. Then Expo,
B.
I say B.
Expo, because it can be S if you get on tower, but it can be D because any troops will distract it.
It would be easily S tier if it didn't shoot at troops, because it's so good, because it shoots so fast and does so much damage. But as long as you see, and it has like a long spawn time, so if you can get troops down to take it out, then it's not that best. But if they can get it locked on tower, it does a bunch of damage.
Yep, and that's going to wrap up the episode. Thanks for listening.